tucked in a cozy cosmic nook where starlight hums and nebulae weave dreamy hues, lies the sleep-bound library. Welcome, my sleep-bound scholars, to this haven where tales of stardust and legend cradle you into slumber. Let these stories drift like a soft breeze, guiding you to a realm where dreams entwine. Subscribe now for sleepy tales to soothe your soul. Rest deeply, wanderer, as the universe whispers its lullabies. As you settle into the warmth of your bed, let the cares of the day slip away like leaves on a gentle stream. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, and let your mind drift to the ancient lands of Middle-earth, where the stars weave tales older than memory. This is a tale of a forgotten wanderer named Thalion, whose quiet deeds shaped the heart of a world. Inspired by the timeless beauty of Tolkien's universe, this story will guide you into dreams as soft as the mists of the Shire. Let the rhythm of these words cradle you, carrying you to a time long past, where hope and kindness shone even in the gathering shadows. In the second age of Middle-earth, when the world was younger and the stars burned brighter, there lived a man named Thalion, a son of Númenor, the great Isle of men blessed by the Valar. He was born in the coastal city of Andni, where the sea whispered secrets to the cliffs and the gulls wheeled in endless dance beneath a twilight sky. Thalion was no hero of song, no bearer of mighty rings or wielder of fabled blades. He was a weaver's son, his hands calloused from the loom, his heart stirred by dreams too vast for the stone walls of his home. His mother, Lyra, was a woman of quiet wisdom, her eyes like the deep pools of the Anduin, reflecting both joy and sorrow. In the evenings, as the firelight danced across their modest home, she wove tapestries that told of the Valar, of Irindil's star sailing the heavens, and of the wide lands of Middle-earth beyond the waves. "The world is vast, my son," she would say, her voice as soothing as the tide lapping at the shore. "But tread softly, for its paths are woven with both light and shadow." Thalion, barely taller than the loom, would sit at her feet, his heart alight with wonder, imagining forests where elves sang under starlight and rivers that carried the secrets of ages in their silver currents. Feel your body sink into the warmth of your bed, heavy as the golden sands of Númenor's shores. Let the rhythm of your breath mirror the gentle lapping of waves, slow and steady, carrying you deeper into rest. As Thalion grew, so did his restlessness. The looms of Andni, though they produced cloth as fine as moonlight, could not hold him. The tales of mariners, who spoke of distant shores, where mountains touched the sky and plains stretched beyond sight, kindled a fire in his soul. On his 20th year, with the salt wind tugging at his dark hair, he stood before his mother in their small courtyard, where the scent of sea roses mingled with the evening air. "I must see the world, mother," he said, his voice trembling with both fear and resolve. Lyra's eyes glistened, but she smiled, her hands steady as she opened a wooden chest carved with waves. From it, she drew a cloak of twilight blue, woven with threads that shimmered faintly under starlight, as if spun from the night itself. "This is my finest work," she said, draping it over his shoulders. "May it shield you from the cold and remind you of home." With her blessing, Thalion boarded a ship bound for Middle-earth, his heart a tangle of hope and uncertainty, like a thread waiting to be woven into a greater pattern. The sea was kind, its waves carrying the ship across the Belagar, the great sea, to the shores of Lindon, where the elves of Gil-galad ruled in splendor. Thalion stepped onto the grey sands, his breath catching at the sight of their halls, towers of white stone crowned with banners that fluttered like captured clouds against the sky. The elves welcomed him with cautious grace, their ancient eyes kind yet distant, as if they saw both the man before them and the fleeting years of his mortal life. Their music filled the air, a cascade of harps and voices that wove starlight into sound, each note a thread in a tapestry of eternity. Thalion, though mortal, felt a kinship with these immortal folk, for their longing for beauty mirrored the ache in his own heart. Yet he did not linger in their halls, for the road called him eastward, through the rolling hills of Eridor, where the grass sighed underfoot and the stars seemed close enough to touch, their lighter guide through the vast unknown. Imagine the cool grass beneath your feet, the night sky vast and endless above you. Breathe in the scent of earth and dew, letting your worries drift away like mist on the morning wind. Thalion's journey was not one of grand battles or epic quests, but of small deeds that left ripples in the tapestry of time. In a village near the river Barandúin, where willows dipped their branches into the water, he found a people harried by wolves that crept from the wilds under cover of night. The villagers, simple farmers with weathered hands and weary eyes, spoke of fear that kept them from their fields, their children waking to howls in the dark. Thalion, no warrior, had only his wit and his mother's gift. He sat by their hearths, where the firelight cast shadows on mud-plastered walls, and listened to their tales of loss and hope. From his cloak, he unraveled threads, strong as sinew, yet soft as moonlight, and taught the villagers to weave nets, showing them how to knot the strands so they would hold fast. Under his guidance, they strung these nets across the paths the wolves prowled, not to harm, but to turn the beasts away. The wolves, sensing no threat, retreated to the hills, their howls fading into the night. The village sang Thalion's name for a season, their voices rising like the river's song, though the memory of his deed faded with the years, as mortal memories often do. Let your breath slow, deep and even, like the steady rhythm of a weaver's loom. Feel your mind soften, as if cradled by the earth itself, warm and grounding. Eastward Thalion wandered, through the wilds of Eridor, where ancient stones stood sentinel, their surfaces carved with runes worn smooth by time. The wind carried echoes of forgotten songs, and Thalion felt the weight of ages in each step. In the shadow of the misty mountains, where peaks pierced the clouds like spears, he came upon a hut of stone and moss, nestled in a grove of pines. There lived an old woman named Yavi, her hair white as frost, her eyes clouded but sharp with wisdom that seemed to see beyond the veil of the world. "You seek purpose, wanderer," she said, her voice cutting through the evening chill as she offered him a bowl of stew, its warmth spreading through his bones like a hearth fire. "But purpose is not found in great deeds alone. It is in the mending of what is broken." Yavi spoke of the land's sorrow, of trees felled by careless hands and rivers choked with silt from forgotten quarries. Thalion stayed with her through the winter, learning to listen to the earth, the sigh of the wind, the pulse of the soil. Under her guidance, he planted saplings, oak and ash and rowan, their roots a promise to the future, their leaves a whisper of renewal. As spring bloomed, Yavi pressed a seed into his hand, small and smooth as a river stone. "Carry this," she said. "Plant it where the land needs healing." Picture those saplings reaching toward the sky, their leaves whispering in the breeze, soft as a lullaby. Let your thoughts grow light, like seeds carried on the wind, drifting toward dreams. Thalion's path wound southward through the lonely towers of a region where the air still hung with the memory of elven smiths who had forged wonders in days long past. He lingered by their ruins, tracing the carvings of stars and leaves etched into weathered stone, wondering at the hands that shaped them. The silence of those halls was heavy, but Thalion felt a quiet reverence, as if the stones themselves whispered of hope. In a hidden valley beyond, he met a family of men, descendants of the Edain, who lived in the shadow of their ancestors' glory. Their children, wide-eyed and curious, gathered around Thalion as he sat beneath an ancient oak, weaving trinkets from grass and thread, stars that glowed faintly under moonlight, charms to ease their fear of the dark. To their elders, he shared tales of Númenor, of its marble halls gleaming under starlight, and its seas that sang of eternity. His words kindled a spark of pride in their heritage, and when he left, the valley seemed a little brighter, its people a little stronger, as if his stories had woven a thread of hope into their lives. Feel the warmth of a firelit circle, the laughter of children fading into the night like a distant song. Let your body relax, as if wrapped in Thalion's twilight cloak, soft and comforting. Years passed, and Thalion's cloak grew tattered, its blue faded to grey, but his heart remained bright as the star of Eärendil. He carried Yavi's seed and others he gathered from the wilds, planting them in barren places, beside rivers where the banks had eroded, in forgotten glades where only thorns grew, on hills scarred by fire and neglect. Each seed was a prayer, each sapling a hope for a greener tomorrow. In a village by the river Lichen, where the waters sparkled like liquid starlight, he met a smith named Tauren, whose hammers rang with skill, but whose work lacked patience. Thalien sat with him, sharing tales of Inmenna's stone carvers, who tempered their craft with care. He taught Tauren to slow his hand, to let the iron breathe, forging tools that lasted generations, plows that turned the earth with ease, sickles that gleamed in the harvest sun. In another village, nestled in a hollow where the wind sang through reeds, Thalien met a girl named Leora, who feared the night and its shadows. From a piece of driftwood, he carved a wooden star, its edges smooth as a lullaby, its surface glowing faintly under moonlight. "Hold this when the dark comes," he told her, and her smile was a light brighter than any star. Imagine those stars, glowing softly in the night, guiding you toward rest. Let your breath flow like the river Lichen, steady and serene, carrying you deeper into peace. The shadow, however, was growing. Whispers reached Thalien's ears in the markets of Tharbad, where merchants traded goods and rumors beneath canvas awnings. They spoke of a golden ring, of a lord in the east whose promises ensnared men's hearts with dreams of power. The air grew heavy, the stars dimmer, as if a veil were falling over Middle-earth, cloaking its beauty in doubt. Thalien heard tales of Inmenna's pride, of kings who sought dominion over the mainland, their ships laden with gold and ambition. His heart ached, for he loved his home. Its cliffs and seas are part of his soul, but he saw its flaws mirrored in the greed of men. Yet he pressed on, his staff of ash steady in his hand, its wood worn smooth by years of travel. His satchel, heavy with seeds and stories, was a weight he bore gladly, each step a testament to the world he sought to mend. Feel the weight of that satchel, lightening as you breathe out, letting go of the day's burdens. Let the earth beneath you hold you, steady and sure, as you sink deeper into rest. Thalien's wanderings took him north to the Blue Mountains, where dwarves delved deep into the earth, their hammers ringing like bells in the frost-sharp air. In a mining camp, where torches cast flickering light on stone walls, he met a young dwarf named Drenny, whose hammer struck true, but whose heart was heavy with doubt. Drenny feared his work would never match the skill of his fathers, whose gems adorned the halls of kings. Thalien sat with him by a fire of pine, sharing stories of Inmenna's stone carvers, who shaped marble with care, not haste. A gem's beauty lies in its patience, Thalien said, his voice calm as a winter stream. He taught Drenny to polish stones slowly, letting their facets catch the light like stars. Before he left, Thalien wove a cord from his cloak's threads, strong enough to hold a miner's tools, its twilight hue a reminder of the sea. Drenny kept it, passing it to his sons, who called it the Wanderer's Cord, an heirloom of their house. In the hills beyond, Thalien planted rowan seeds, their red berries a spark of warmth against the snow. a promise of spring in the cold. Picture those red berries glowing like embers in the frost. Let your thoughts drift like snowflakes, soft and weightless, settling into dreams. Southward, Thalion crossed the grey flood, where the ruins of ancient kingdoms lay scattered like forgotten dreams, their stones half buried in moss. In a hamlet of fisherfolk, where the river's song mingled with the creak of wooden boats, he found a widow named Eloria, whose nets were torn and whose spirit was frayed by loss. Her husband had been taken by the river's current, leaving her and her son, Elrin, to fend for themselves. Thalion sat with her by the water's edge, where the reeds swayed like dancers, and mended her nets with his mother's thread, teaching her knots that held fast against the river's pull. From a piece of driftwood, smoothed by years in the water, he carved a fish for Elrin, its curves soft as the river's flow. The boy clutched it, his eyes brightening, and smiled for the first time in months. Eloria's nets grew full, her hearthfire bright, and the hamlet thrived, its people singing of the wanderer who brought them hope. Feel the river's gentle current, washing away tension. Let your breath flow like water, smooth and unhurried, carrying you towards sleep. In the wilds of Enadwaith, where the wind howled over plains of tall grass, Thalion encountered a band of wanderers, men who called no place home. Their leader, a woman named Selland, bore the weight of her people's survival, her eyes sharp as flint, but weary with care. Thalion camped with them under a sky ablaze with stars, sharing his seeds, apple and pear, gathered from forgotten orchards. He taught them to plant trees that would bear fruit in years to come, their roots anchoring the wanderers to the land. From their rough wool, he wove blankets, each stitch a promise of warmth against the cold nights. When he left, Selland gave him a stone, polished by the river until it gleamed like moonlight. For your journey, she said, her voice soft but strong. Thalion carried it, its cool weight a reminder of shared burdens, a thread in the tapestry of his travels. Imagine those blankets, warm and soft, wrapping you in comfort. Let your mind weave them into dreams, seamless and gentle, as you drift deeper. Through the years, Thalion's satchel grew lighter, his seeds sown across Middle-earth in places where hope had faltered. In the hills of Rudor, where the wind carried the scent of pine, he helped a shepherd named Goran rebuild a fold for his flock, weaving brambles into walls that kept wolves at bay. Goran's sheep grazed safely, and his family slept without fear, their hearth warmed by Thalion's quiet kindness. In the marshes of the Gladden fields, where the reeds whispered secrets to the stars, Thalion met a healer named Miriel, whose hands were skilled but whose stores of herbs had dwindled. He taught her to dry Menorian mint, its scent sharp and soothing, and left her a pouch to ease the fevers of her people. Each act was a thread, small yet strong, woven into the fabric of the land, binding lives together in a pattern only the heart could see. Picture those threads, connecting lives across the earth, glowing like starlight. Let your mind weave them into dreams, soft and seamless, guiding you to rest. As the shadow of Sauron grew, Thalien felt its weight in the eyes of those he met, fear where there had been hope, silence where there had been song. In the markets of Tharbad, where the grey flood met the road, he heard whispers of a golden ring, its power a lure to men's hearts. The air grew heavy, as if the stars themselves were veiled by doubt. Yet Thalien did not falter. In a village near the Anduin, where the river's song was a constant lullaby, he met an old man named Valther, a storyteller whose voice had grown faint with age. Thalien sat with him under a willow, sharing tales of Inmenna's starlit seas and Eriador's whispering hills. Valther's eyes brightened, and he took up his harp once more, its strings humming with a song of a wanderer whose kindness outshone kings. Thalien left him a seed, and Valther planted it by his door, where it grew into an oak that shaded generations, its branches a testament to a story that lived beyond words. Feel that oak's shade, cool and comforting, wrapping you in peace. Let your body sink deeper, as if held by its roots, strong and steady. In his later years, Thalien's steps grew heavy, his hair streaked with silver like the rivers he loved. He returned to Eriador, to the village by the Baranduin, where he had woven nets long ago. The villagers, now old, welcomed him as kin, their faces lined with years but bright with memory. They showed him the fields, green and bountiful, and the nets, still strong after decades, their threads a legacy of his hands. Thalien smiled, his cloak a patchwork of memories, its twilight blue faded but warm. He gifted them his last seed, a gift from Yovi's hand, small and smooth as hope itself. Tend it well, he said, and they did, planting it in the heart of their village, where it grew into a tree that stood as a beacon of hope, its leaves whispering of a wanderer who walked softly through their lives. Picture that tree, its branches swaying in the night wind, its roots deep and sure. Let your body sink deeper, as if cradled by its strength, guiding you toward sleep. Thalien's final journey brought him back to the sea, to the shores of Lindon, where his tale began. His cloak was threadbare now, its edges frayed by years of wind and rain, his staff of ash worn smooth by countless steps. He climbed a cliff overlooking the waves, where the gulls cried and the sea sang an endless lullaby. There, under the silver light of Earendil's star, he sat and wove his last tale, not in thread, but in words. He spoke to the gulls, to the sea, to the wind, telling of a world worth mending, of small kindnesses that outlasted empires. His voice was soft, yet it carried, mingling with the song of the waves, scattering like seeds across the water. The seed he carried from Yavi took root on that cliff, growing into a tree that stood for centuries. Its branches a shelter for travelers, its leaves whispering Thalion's name to those who listened. See yourself on that cliff, the sea's lullaby in your ears, the starlight soft on your face. Let your thoughts drift like gulls, light and free, soaring toward dreams. Thalion's name was never carved in stone, nor sung in the halls of kings, but in the villages he touched, in the saplings that grew to mighty oaks, in the hearts that remembered a wanderer's kindness. His story lived on. The tree on the cliff stood as a testament, its roots deep in the earth, its branches reaching for the stars. Across Middle Earth, his seeds took root in glades and hills, by rivers and ruins, each a thread in a tapestry of hope, woven by a man who walked softly through a world on the edge of shadow. As you drift toward sleep, imagine Thalion's cloak wrapping around you, warm and worn, its twilight threads a comfort against the night. Let it carry you into dreams where Middle Earth awaits, its hills green, its rivers silver, its stars bright and endless. Sleep now, gently, deeply, and let the world of Middle Earth cradle you in its timeless embrace. Thalion's journey did not end with the villages of Eriador or the shores of Lindon. His heart, ever restless, led him north again to the windswept plains of Forodworth, where the cold bit deep and the stars seemed to hang low, their light sharp as diamonds. There, in a camp of hardy folk who hunted under the aurora's glow, Thalion met a woman named Thrime, whose hands were skilled with a bow, but whose spirit was weighed by loss. Her brother had fallen to the ice, and her laughter had faded with him. Thalion sat with her by a fire of driftwood, its flames casting shadows on the snow. He shared stories of Inmena's warmth, of seas that glowed under moonlight, and taught her to weave a cord from his cloak's threads, strong enough to bind her arrows. Strength is not only in the bow, he said, but in the heart that carries on. Thryme's smile returned, faint but true, and she gave him a shard of ice, clear as glass, to carry as a reminder of her people's resilience. Thalion planted seeds of hardy pine in the frozen earth, their needles a promise of green in a land of white. Feel that ice shard in your hand, cool and smooth, melting away tension. Let your breath slow, like the quiet fall of snow, blanketing you in peace. Westward he turned, to the hills of Evendim, where Lake Nenuile mirrored the sky like a sheet of sapphire. In a village of fishers, Thalion found a boy named Arvin, whose nets were tangled and whose dreams were of sailing beyond the lake's shores. Thalion sat with him on the docks, where the water lapped gently, and taught him to mend his nets with knots that held like promises. From a fallen branch, he carved a small boat, its sails woven from his cloak's threads, and set it afloat on the lake, a gift for Arven's dreams. The boy's eyes shone, and the village's nets grew strong, their catches plentiful. Thalion left a seed by the lake's edge, and it grew into a willow, its branches trailing in the water, a haven for fishers in years to come. Imagine that willow, its leaves brushing the water, soft as a whisper. Let your thoughts flow like the lake, calm and clear, guiding you to rest. South again, Thalion wandered to Númenor, where the forests had been felled by Númenor's axes, leaving scars on the land. In a camp of woodcutters, he met a man named Haleth, whose heart was torn between duty and guilt for the trees he cut. Thalion walked with him through the stumps, listening to the silence where birds once sang. He shared Yovi's wisdom, teaching Haleth to plant new trees, birch and beech, to heal the land. From his satchel, Thalion gave seeds, and from his cloak, he wove a band to hold Haleth's axe, a reminder to cut with care. The woodcutters followed his lead, and over years, the forest began to return, its saplings a chorus of green. Haleth gave Thalion a carved leaf of wood, its grain smooth as a river stone, a token of gratitude. Picture those saplings, their leaves rustling in the breeze, a song of renewal. Let your body sink deeper, as if rooted in the earth, steady and calm. In the marshes of Swanfleet, where the Glanduan River spread into pools of silver, Thalion met a healer named Iloan, whose hands were gentle, but whose heart was heavy with the sickness that plagued her people. The marshes bred fever, and her herbs were few. Thalion sat with her under a canopy of reeds, sharing the knowledge of Menorian mint, and teaching her to dry it over slow fires. He left a pouch of seeds, their scent sharp and soothing, and wove a basket from the marsh grasses to hold her remedies. Iloan's patience grew strong, and her smile returned, a light in the misty air. Thalion planted reeds along the marsh's edge, their roots binding the soil, their stems a shelter for birds. Feel the marsh's cool air, soft against your skin. Let your breath mirror the reeds sway, gentle and rhythmic, carrying you towards sleep. Thalion's travels took him east to the Weather Hills, where ancient watchtowers stood like silent guardians. In a village at their base, he met a girl named Tilda, who feared the storms that swept the hills, their thunder shaking her dreams. Thalion sat with her under a rocky outcrop, weaving a charm from his cloak's threads, a star that glowed faintly under moonlight. The storm passes, he told her, but the stars remain. He carved a small stone with the shape of a star, giving it to her to hold when the winds howled. Tilda's fear eased, and the village named a hill after the wanderer, though time wore the name away. Thalion planted seeds of gorse, their yellow blooms a spark against the grey stone, a light for travellers in the dark. Imagine those blooms, bright and steady, lighting your path to dreams. Let your thoughts drift like clouds after a storm, soft and weightless. As decades passed, Thalion's cloak became a patchwork of memories, each tear a story, each patch a kindness. In the plains of Cardolan, he helped a farmer named Biren mend a broken cart, weaving ropes from his cloak to bind its wheels. The cart rolled again, carrying grain to market, and Biren's family thrived. In a hamlet by the old forest, Thalion taught a weaver named Lycia to dye her cloth with herbs, their colors rich as the earth. He left a seed, and it grew into a hazel tree, its nuts a gift for generations. Each act was a seed, each kindness a root, binding Thalion to the land and its people. Feel those roots, deep and strong, holding you gently. Let your body relax, as if cradled by the earth, warm and secure. In his final years, Thalion's hair was white as the foam of the sea, his steps slow but steady. He returned to the Anduin, where the river's song was a lullaby that echoed his mother's voice. In a village of boatmen, he met a man named Corin, whose craft had been shattered by a storm. Thalion helped him rebuild, weaving cords to lash the planks, teaching him knots that held against the current. He carved a fish from river wood, its scales catching the light, and gave it to Corin's daughter, whose laughter filled the air. The village's boats sailed strong, and Thalion left a seed by the riverbank, where it grew into an alder, its roots drinking deep from the water. Picture that alder, its branches swaying over the river, a cradle of green. Let your mind drift like its leaves, soft and free, towards sleep. When Thalion reached Linden once more, his staff was nearly worn through, its wood smooth as a river stone. He climbed the cliff above the sea, where the gulls cried and the waves sang an endless song. Under Irindil's star, he sat and spoke his final tale, a weave of all he had seen and done, villages mended, seeds planted, hearts lifted. His voice was soft, yet it carried, mingling with the sea's lullaby, scattering like seeds across the water. The seed from Yavi took root on that cliff, growing into a tree that stood for centuries, its branches a shelter for travelers, its leaves whispering Thalion's name to those who pause to listen. See yourself on that cliff, the sea's song in your bones, the starlight soft on your skin. Let Thalion's cloak wrap you, warm and worn, carrying you into a world of green hills and endless stars. Sleep now, gently, deeply, and let Middle-earth cradle you in its timeless embrace.